Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. What do you get when you combine culture, compassion, and cash flow? Well, I'm out on the road again this week, taking a look at a couple of real estate markets that offer rehab riches without you having to swing a hammer. And I've got two excellent guests today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. All aboard! Registration is open for the Real Estate Guys 22nd Annual Investor Summit. Imagine spending more than a week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning in 2024 is the editor of the Gold newsletter, Brian London, real estate developer Beth Clifford, and the rebel capitalist George Gammon. Back with us in 2024, sales legend and best-selling author Tom Hopkins. And joining us live and in person for his 12th Investor Summit, Ken McElroy. Plus two brand new faculty members we can't even mention yet, and a lot more. It all begins June 13th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Visit investorsummitatc.com to get all the details and reserve your spot. This transformational week is like no conference you've ever attended. Go to investorsummitatc.com and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, Ken McElroy, Tom Hopkins, and an all-star faculty on the 22nd Annual Investor Summit at Sea. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms, and in the co-host seat, it's our financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
We are heading around the country, and in fact, further than that, last week in Scottsdale with Ken McElroy. Today, we're going to visit one of our favorite real estate markets, find out what's new and what is happening in response to these crazy high interest rates.
Yeah, we've been going in and out of different real estate markets together for, I don't know, it's been 20 years, more than 20 years now.
Yep.
Pre-crash, through the crash, coming out of the crash, and the market's changed. The markets that were popular pre-crash were very different than the markets that became popular post. I remember looking around saying, gee, where is the opportunity going to be? And Ken McElroy, that you just mentioned, was moving his focus from Arizona, where he was doing a lot of multifamily properties, and he was moving out to Texas because he saw that the job base was geographically linked with the oil industry, and those are jobs that couldn't be exported. And you and I sat there and looked at that and said, where else might there be geographically linked jobs? And we thought, well, distribution. We went into Atlanta, we went into Memphis. Memphis, I'd never even thought of Memphis. All I ever thought about Memphis was, it's a high crime, kind of a blue collar town. You got renting class people, but, just on the surface, I was not that interested. But when you peel back the layers of the onion and you really look at the market dynamics, huge distribution hub, high rental demand, and some of the concerns that you have from a distance when you get there and actually understand the market, they're not as concerning as you might think.
It's such a good point. When we're in a market that we know and understand and live in and spend time in, we're closer to it. As real estate investors, I say live where you want to live, invest where the numbers make sense. You can't be in too many markets. I remember I had a student years ago in my appraisal class come up and she says, I'll have you know, I'm researching 18 markets. And I said, well, I'll have you know you're wasting your time. And she looked at me. I said, research 2 or 3 markets and then do a compared to what? And then add a 4th or 5th. 18 is way too many. I don't think very many investors can successfully have more than a half dozen markets that they know well enough to make a purchase decision in and to assemble a team in. At the Real Estate Guys, we talk about your personal investment philosophy kind of at the top. And from there, now we look at a market or markets that can serve our investment philosophy. Once we have outlined a market that might make sense, now we got to find a team, the folks that can help us in that marketplace. Those are your brokers and attorneys and lenders and insurance folks and turnkey providers. And once you've got that figured out, now you go find a property. And so many people start with the property and then discover they're in a wrong market or have a wrong team. Today, you're going to get a lot of details about the market, actually a couple of markets we'll talk about, but really about the team and how you put together a team that has not just head knowledge, but seat knowledge. Excited to be in Memphis, Tennessee. We'll be back with not one, but 2 special guests today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Self-storage is an asset class that has stood the test of time. Going into the Great Recession of 2008, self-storage had the least negative impact of any of its commercial real estate peers, and it had explosive growth coming out of that time during the recovery. Fast forward to 2020, and you'll see that same pattern during some of the worst part of the pandemic. Hi, my name is Dave Zook, founder and CEO of the Real Asset Investor. Our operating partners are some of the best in the business, and we've had great success over the last decade buying mom-and-pop operated self-storage facilities and taking them to the next level by forcing value through increasing the square footage, adding climate-controlled units, bringing in our professional management teams, and turning the project into an institutional target. We have self-storage investment opportunities available for accredited investors who are interested in investing in this space for cash flow, tax impact, and huge equity appreciation. Reach out to us today at selfstorage@realestateguysradio.com.
For thousands of years of human history, silver has been recognized as money. Then in 1965, the United States took silver out of the financial system. But did silver stop being money? Smart investors don't think so. And ever since, when there are concerns about the quality of the currency, alert investors seek shelter in silver and gold. As the size and frequency of major financial crises grow, silver is attracting a lot of attention. To help better understand the what, why, and how of silver, watch the free 9-part series, Making Sense of Silver. Everything you always wanted to know about silver but didn't know to ask. Featuring 30-year precious metals veteran Dana Samuelson. Send your email requests to silverseries@realestateguysradio.com. Whether you own silver now or you're wondering if it's too late, email silverseries@realestateguysradio.com.
Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy and I'm on with the Real Estate Guys, and I'm very excited to be a guest and a speaker at the Investor Summit coming up. If you haven't signed up, be sure to do so.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, now in our 28th year of broadcast. It's been a decade and a half that we've been visiting this fabulous town. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee with two of my awesome friends. You're going to meet first the gentleman that started Mid-South Homebuyers. I know you're sick of hearing the ads that we run, but they've been such a great partner to the Real Estate Guys. Let's say hello to our good friend Terry Kerr. Hey, Terry.
Hey, thanks so much for having me again, Robert. Good to see you guys back.
It's so good to see you, and wow, has this place grown. When we met, you were a guy that was fixing up houses, doing an amazing job, selling off a few to then keep one on your own, and you built up a fledgling property management company. And today, wow, as we walk through this warehouse, it's amazing. Talk about the growth that's happened in the last 15 years in your business.
Sure. You know, it hasn't been any phenomenal growth year over year. It's just been slow and steady. You know, we're managing about 4,700 houses now, rehabbing about 500 houses a year, which includes some of our new construction and Little Rock, I think we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, it hadn't been anything phenomenal, but it's just slow and steady growth year after year.
So we're going to talk about the market and we're going to talk about what you guys do. But I think a big takeaway for folks is just how you've approached this as a business person and how you, as a local guy, a guy that grew up in Memphis, you figured out that real estate made sense and have really developed some great techniques and strategies around that. So back in the day when you first started here, what was Memphis like and what were the houses like and how did you figure out where your niche was?
Sure. Well, you know, I started out rehabbing houses. My first 2 or 3 houses, I bought them in areas where I thought I was getting a good deal, but the areas were too depressed. And I quickly learned, and then the pendulum swung too far the other direction. And I was buying houses that were in areas where it was more owner occupant, and the cash flow wasn't good enough. So over the first couple of years, I figured out where the sweet spot was, where you're buying, where you're, you know, up high enough to where you've got good residents that are qualified, but not up too high to where you're not going to cash flow. So it took a little bit of trial and error, but over the first couple of years, we figured it out.
Well, clearly you have it down now because your model is you buy a house that needs a pretty good amount of work generally, and then you've got an incredible team put together. And as we are going to get a chance later today, we're going to go out and look at a bunch of the houses and we'll come back and report. But talk about that part of it, how you've scaled from a guy that used to, you know, stay in the house overnight to now having these teams that you mobilize to do 500 rehabs a year?
Sure. From the beginning, I wanted to make sure that every time we rehabbed a house, everybody that was involved in the deal said, you know what, I want to do that again. And it's amazing how many partners you have to really pull it off. You've got to have contractors that will do the work. You've got to have lenders that will loan the money. You need happy investors that want to do the deal again. You want residents that want to renew their leases, all the way down the line to title companies that do a great job providing good customer service to investor buyers, mortgage brokers that do excellent communication and have good rates. So, there's 20 or 30 different participants that are vital to the deal. And so just wanted to make sure to ask everybody, is there anything that we should do different? How can we be an easier partner to work with? And then the more volume you do, the better deal you can get from all the folks that you work with. And so our business is a volume game. We don't make as much money as a lot of our friendly competitors on the flips, but we put more money into the rehab, and that is the foundation of our whole deal.
Well, there's a neat nuance about that, which is because you have a property management company and you're going to be with these folks, these investors, for hopefully years and years, you're not just out to make the quick dime on the renovation of the house. In fact, you guys have a pretty small margin when it comes to that, but it is volume, but it's also the fact that they're going to be property management clients. And, a lot of folks who just do the rehab, they don't have to worry about property management. So they don't care if it's that great of a neighborhood or if it's in demand, but you guys have to manage what you sell.
Sure, absolutely. And that sort of lends itself to, we're wanting to buy the houses that need a whole lot of work. We're not looking for the lipstick jobs. We want a house that when we're done with it, all the major components are new. New roof, new HVAC, updated electrical, updated plumbing, gutted kitchens, gutted bathrooms, the whole 9 yards. And so we'll buy houses that scare a lot of folks away. We're super tight with the folks in environmental court, because a lot of the houses that we buy are in such a state of disrepair that they're already in environmental court. So we get tapped and asked to buy houses that will scare other folks off. But, we've done it for a long time. And so we've gotten good at buying the train wrecks. And it's really, really nice to be able to buy a house where someone couldn't afford to fix a roof leak. And after a couple of years, it's gone all the way down through the floor and you've got something that's a big mess. But once you finish putting it all back together, you've got a brand spanking new house that's not going to take a lot of money to maintain over the next 10, 12, 15, 20 years.
And for most investors, this is a long-term investment. It's not the kind of thing where people come in for a couple of years and sell the house. And let's say hi to Liz Brody. Liz, great to see you.
Hi, so glad to be here.
Yes, I remember back in the day when you were just kind of getting started here. And now it's been, how many years you've been with the company?
14.
14 years. Wow. And this is a great point, that you have to deal with the two parties, the investor who buys the house. And there's a whole communication around that. Early on, we're going to do this today. We're going to around look at some houses, get our mind around the marketplace, kind of figure all that stuff out. And you spend a lot of time on the front end with folks. But then you also have the tenant, and the tenant's super important. And those are the things that you balance. And maybe with you guys especially, that balance is different than with just a property manager or just someone that does the rehab.
Absolutely. Being in business for 21, 22 years now, one thing that Terry has taught us to do is we have looked back and said, how could we have done this better? So everything from, we were talking about putting ceiling fans in the bedrooms. Not only do the renters like it, cost us about an extra $70 a bedroom, it adds 2 years of life to your condenser. Doing this year after year does that. Well, that goes into tenant selection as well. If a renter is approved with our property management company, they would get approved anywhere in town within the limits of their income. We have every box everybody else has and about 5 that they don't. And that comes from whenever a renter fell off the rails in the early years, we would comb through their files. Was there anything that we could have seen that would have predicted this? So I'll give you a super quick example. Renter rents at Oak Shores Apartments for 2 years. They leave in good standing. They paid on time. They got their deposit back. They go live with their mom for a year for whatever reason. They come and apply with us. The income is there. The credit is there. Everyone else is going to say yes. One of our rules is we need to talk to the person that you paid rent to yesterday. So go rent from somebody else for a year. We can't wait to see you back. Nobody else is going to say that, but do you know why we do that? Because we've looked back.
Yeah.
Folks had trouble. There's 9 different nuances like that. It's kind of granular, but it just comes from being in business so long and learning as we go.
Well, and everything that happens is feedback. So it's not that you haven't had problems. I like to share the fact that we've been pointing to you guys for all these years now, and never once have we had anybody even come close to having a complaint. It's quite the opposite. You guys are the gold standard because you take the feedback when things do go wrong and you make these changes. And, I have this different perspective because I only get to see you guys every few years, and we come in and everything's changed and the place is bigger. There's more employees than last time. I mean, everything's trending in the right direction because of those little changes that you talked about, Terry. It didn't all happen in a huge, big burst. You just stay at it, and you grow. One of the ways that you grew was to not just focus on Memphis, but a few years ago, you went up into a second market. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So we looked around and wanted to find a market that was really similar to Memphis, and that market is Little Rock, Arkansas. Fortunately, I have family there, so my cousin Thomas spearheaded acquisitions. Fast forward now, we've got about 700 houses that we've rehabbed, sold and managed in Little Rock, and have actually cranked up new construction and are working on 3 new construction subdivisions there. So it's really, really been nice.
Well, and maybe, Liz, you can contrast the markets a little bit. One of the things I know about both of the markets you're in is they're landlord friendly, which is always great. But I'm sure you have people that come in and say, well, okay, you guys are in Little Rock and you're in Memphis. Which is better? And I know there's not an answer to that, but maybe give us the pros and cons.
One of the ways that I love how we did this expansion, Terry's really protective of our company culture and our reputation. The new employees are actually here in Memphis. We permanently relocated with their children and families, 27-ish, long-term, multi-year career employees. So we've been in Little Rock 6-ish years. The folks walk into your house have worked for us for 10 or 12. We've got that box truck that runs from our warehouse out there. Because it is the Mid-South model, they do get pretty interchangeable. Sometimes picking is the hardest for folks. Little Rock has slightly lower property taxes, but Tennessee does not have state income tax. So you get some little washes like that. But ultimately, the occupancy rates are that 98 to 99%. The renter stays are that 4 years. You kind of can't go wrong. And so I see a lot of our investors really enjoying diversifying markets with one manager.
That's such a good point. We often talk with folks who are buying their 3rd or 4th property, and there's 2 schools of thought. One is, well, I've already learned this market and I have this team, so I'll just buy another one there, which totally makes sense. The challenge is diversifying by markets. So here you kind of answered that folks can stay with you guys, but be in a different market. Do you have your eyes set on other markets, or are you guys good for now?
Well, we're good for now. We're going to focus on new construction. So like I said, we got 3 subdivisions rolling right now in Little Rock, and we're starting to stick our toe in Memphis, and slow and steady. We're not trying to kill it right out of the gate, but we're going to focus on continuing to do what brought us to the dance, which is rehabs, and add new construction. And so never say never on market number 3, but we're cool for now.
The idea of taking a house and having been through a lot of the older houses that you guys have done, it's the right thing for the neighborhood. It's the right thing for the tenant. It's certainly the right thing for the investor. And the houses just breathe that new life once you've put the Mid-South touch on them. But when you run out of inventory, either you go to another market or you say, well, what else could we do? And rather than lower the standards, the idea of building something to rent, which is a big topic we discuss a lot on the show, the whole build to rent model makes sense. So what are some things you would look at, Terry, as a guy that's rehabbed houses for 20 years that you might see building a new subdivision for tenants that others might not? Well, you want to make sure that it's in an area where people want to live. That's the main thing, right? What is the occupancy rate? What is the demand for rental property? So that's number one. And then you've got to make sure to get the right development team. When we were first looking to go into new construction development, we were interviewing lots of builders and developers, and you got to make sure to pick the right team. So we did not rush
into it, and we have got a fabulous team of folks that we've worked with now doing the development, putting in the roads, the sewers, the whole 9 yards. It's a completely different animal, and so we baby stepped into it, and fortunately, we did not have the growing pains there like we could have.
Well, and because you already have a vibrant business model and you're already in the construction business, kind of like it or not, right? It seems like a pretty easy step to go that way, but it is, a different deal. And yet it's not like you're a startup or having to reinvent everything about it. So excited to see that. We'll stay tuned on the build to rent product. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Folks that have been listening to us for a while and have reached out to you guys, there's been times in the past where they've been a little disappointed because you've had a long waiting list. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, we're grateful that we had so many investors in houses. We've done more houses every year we've been in business. It really isn't due to dips from 300-ish to 400-ish to 500-ish a year. But I like to think that if you've genuinely been setting people up with a good investment for 20 years, how could there not be a line?
Right.
And so we're grateful for it. But I will tell you that what I am more grateful for is that between the new construction helping us play catch up, wait times are 90 to 120 days. So if you call me tomorrow, I will be sending you some really awesome houses in about 3 months.
That might sound like a lot, but in the past it was over a year. So that's super good news. And investors don't need to move in this weekend, right? If I'm an owner occupant, I'm trying to time it with my job or my kids in school. Whole different deal. Once an investor gets sold on the market and then the team, it's like, okay, well, when the right one comes up, right, then we'll do it, whether it's this month or 3 months or whatever that is. And then I know people do get back in line, right? And they do come back because once they've had that experience, they've already got the relationship with you guys. They already have experienced what the invoicing and the cash flows and all that looks like. It is easier to add another house than go find another market.
Absolutely.
So before we get out of here, because we're going to go and take a look and see what's going on and get boots on the ground, and we'll come back and debrief about that. Let's just talk about the markets themselves, because it's been a while since I've been to Memphis. One of the things that I learned from you guys is just what the big drivers are here, distribution and some of the different industries. Let's talk about that for a minute, the market and what you see in the marketplace.
Absolutely. FedEx is still running strong. For 12 of my 14 years here, I was saying that we had the second busiest cargo airport on planet Earth. We were second to Hong Kong. About 2 years ago, we became number one. So we are the busiest cargo airport on planet Earth, busier than Hong Kong. And that is so much well-paid labor employee, and that means well-paid renters. We are the third largest confluence of rail in the United States. We've got folks working on the railroads, and it just has all these offshoots. We have Nike's largest distribution facility in North America in North Memphis, where we are the largest property managers and renovators by a shot. That is the size of 42 football fields, and it has 33 miles of conveyor belt in it. Wow. You want to talk about a well-paid factory job. Ford is doing a $5 billion with a B electric car plant in North Memphis, about 45 minutes out in a rural town. But they chose it because we have the employees that they need to open a giant car factory. I'm thrilled about it. It's just going to bring so much employment.
Well, and it's not just employment; it's the right kind of jobs. And for investors, especially, think about the blue collar jobs, the folks that get up and work hard and develop a trade, and over time their standard of living goes up, but rarely enough that they are going to save up the 20% necessary for a down payment. So they become lifelong tenants, but great tenants. I think this is a big reason, and your awesome service, that you have these longer times. So looking at the percentage of people that rent here, it's pretty high, but these aren't transient jobs. These are careers for people.
Absolutely. 53% of the Memphis population rents. That is so unusual. It puts us in the 98th percentile for the nation.
Yeah.
And the market gets some weird quirks. One thing people are continually surprised by is that it is completely normal in Memphis for renters to bring their own appliances. People are always going, what? Because you'd get laughed off the phone trying to rent a house for that. And I always say, you hear about buyer's markets or seller's markets. Memphis and Little Rock are landlords' markets. The rental demand is so high that landlords don't have to compete with each other in some ways. And so it's a simple little thing. You don't repair appliances, you don't replace appliances as an owner. And there's all these little edges that high demand brings. And we have investors in 17 different countries around the world. We have investors in all 50 states. There's a reason folks in Japan are buying in Memphis, and it's some of these, in Little Rock, and it's some of these unique factors.
Yeah. And, you have to look long term. We say you get married to a market. And if you're going to do the work necessary to figure out the market, what makes sense, you're going to want to pay attention so that if things change, and I know you guys are in the forefront of that. Certainly things changed with COVID. That was a big difference, but distribution became stronger than ever. So you couldn't script that, like which businesses did well and which businesses didn't. Being in the housing business, people still had to live somewhere. Being in a distribution market, stuff still had to move maybe more than ever. And it's amazing to see the airport transform at night. Our flight got in pretty late last night, later than it was supposed to. So it's midnight and they're starting to make the switch, and you look over and you see just the enormous, FedEx infrastructure there. But that creates a whole different kind of job that isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I love that. One of it's such a stable industry. So Memphis has been a distribution center for about 200 years.
Yeah.
Before the Civil War, cotton grown in the U.S., coming through Memphis. Today, cotton grown in the U.S., coming through Memphis. And there's very little chance that China or Mexico can get a package from New York to L.A. faster than Memphis. You've got barges going up and down the Mississippi. That's a couple hundred years old too. And as an investor myself, it just gives me a lot of peace of mind about stable employment for people that want to rent from me.
An investor wants to minimize their risk, whatever that looks like. I want to learn the market before I invest there. I want to understand how property management works before I say yes or sign a long contract. And I think as I step back, I look at the ways that you guys help investors mitigate risk. The other thing I see, Terry, that I want to ask you about is the culture you've developed here. Because as we walk around and meet people, everyone's in a good mood. It's just, you can feel it when you walk in the place, and that is speed of the leader. So how do you craft a culture where people are excited about what they do, they're getting paid well, but they feel part of a team?
Well, we work every day on sharpening the axe. We have meetings all the time. And we want to know whether it's a dispatcher or a field manager or whoever it is, we want to know what they're seeing on the front lines. And so it doesn't have to be my idea or Liz's idea. It just has to be the best idea. And so we embrace best ideas. We have a relatively flat organization that doesn't look like a pyramid. It's pretty dang flat. Everyone is valued because they're valuable. And we just work hard on making sure that people know that and feel that. And, it's a culture of respect. And, if folks don't play nice, then, they don't last. But we've got such a terrific group of managers and employees and subcontractors. Yeah, I don't know. Just, I think everyone enjoys it, and they know that at the heart of what we're doing is we're providing a good, safe place for families to live, and we're providing a nice, safe investment for our investors. And they see that. They see the big picture, and then they see the before and afters, and it's tangible. I guess it's not any one thing, but I believe that our employees and subcontractors and all of our team members know that they're part of something bigger.
Well, and as we go around to the office and meet people who've been here 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, that tells a story as well.
Terry asks us regularly, all of us, leasing agents, maintenance guys, if you were in charge of everything tomorrow, what would you change? And one, there's actual benefit in the answers, and then everyone feels included, everyone feels dedicated. I've been here 14 years. I have 4 people on my team, and every single one of my team has told me that this is the best job they've ever had. It matters to investors because we're working together 10 or 15 years, and you're going to hear the same smiling voice that knows the answer to your question because of some of the great quality of life he gives us.
Love that. We're in Memphis, Tennessee with Terry and Liz from Mid-South Home Buyers. We're going to go out and take a tour and look around and see some of these fabulous properties. Can't wait for that. And we'll come back and report our findings in a little bit. Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. Thanks, Robert.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey everyone, it's Brad Sumrock, and I bought my first apartment building 22 years ago. And I know you've heard about our big events with music and lights and celebrity speakers, but we have an event coming up that is for somebody who is ready to get started in 2024. It's an in-person experience only, and it's a limited number of attendees. So it's more of a workshop than a seminar. So you're gonna learn how to underwrite a deal because it's not just enough to find them, you gotta be able to analyze them. And you're going to learn how important it is to manage these deals, vet and hire and oversee management companies and key performance indicators. Let's make 2024 your year to learn how to master finding and analyzing and managing profitable apartment investments.
Join the Apartment King, Brad Sumrock, February 17th and 18th in Dallas, Texas at Weekend to Wealth. To get Brad's 2024 apartment forecast and the details about the event, just send an email to forecast@realestateguysradio.com. That's forecast@realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
Hi, this is Kevin Harrington, an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and you're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. If this is the year that you expand your real estate investment footprint, maybe it's time you consider the world of syndication. Whether you're investing actively or passively, there's a lot to learn, but you can do it, especially if you come out to our 2-day event, The Secrets of Successful Syndication. Happens near the end of March in Dallas, Texas. Get all the details by sending an email to syndication@realestateguysradio.com or look under events on the website at realestateguysradio.com. We're in Memphis, Tennessee today, getting a whirlwind tour and finding rehab riches without having to swing a hammer. Before we get back to the results of our trip, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia, your chance to win a prize by knowing today's real estate trivia question. When you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. First person that gets the answer right is going to get an awesome book called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. That can be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week, we were in Scottsdale, Arizona with Kenny McElroy. We asked you this: name the U.S. state with the highest cost of living. While it's expensive everywhere, Hawaii is the #1 most expensive state in the union, followed by Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, and California. Cost of living index is calculated based on the price of more than 60 goods and services, and the most expensive states are primarily on the coasts. why the lowest cost of living tends to be in the Midwest and South. Maybe that's why Memphis and Little Rock are such good places for tenants. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Here in the grand state of Tennessee, there are 6 official state songs. Yeah, 6. And 5 of those songs have the word Tennessee in the name. What's the only official state song that does not include the state's name in its title? Yep, a lot of states have a song or a couple of songs. Tennessee has 6 official state songs, only 1 without Tennessee in the title. And I'm guessing you've heard it? Name that tune. Send us your best guess, along with your name and mailing address, to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. The first person that gets it right gets Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. That's today's real estate trivia question and the end of our tour. We have just spent the last 4 hours with Liz, and what an amazing time we had. Thank you.
That was so much fun. You guys had great questions, too.
Well, and we got to see 4 houses. And so you started us with a house that you guys have had just for 5 days. So that means that your team's gone through and they've taken a look at what it needs and so forth. Let's talk about that house because it's just coming off of being boarded up and being in a lot of trouble, and it needs some work.
Absolutely. You guys, we did not pull up and think, I can't wait to move in here or let this be my next rental property. As Terry says, we like the stuff that scares other people off. The kitchen counters, as we saw, were sinking slanted into the floor. Rotten wood, peeling paint, but a pretty cute and stable and quiet neighborhood. It was the kind of the one eyesore on the street.
Well, and you talked about this, the typical neighborhood you guys are in. If you look at a dozen houses, there are going to be 10 that look nice and have pride of ownership, and then you're going to have that one that is got kind of the rough edges, and then you got the ugly house that's got trouble, might be empty, might be vacant, it's got distress of some kind, and that's usually the house you guys will take and fix up.
Yep. You come back in 3 months and it's the cutest house on the block, and we're bidding on that house that was starting to get rough around the edges. It forces a lot of appreciation too. It really stabilizes the neighborhoods.
Well, it's a great thing that the work that you guys do does elevate not just that street, but the neighborhood. Is great for the tenant. It's great for everybody. But if you don't have a lot of imagination, it's hard to see the first time, right? You walk in like, ugh. So we were in the position of having some young folks with us today, which was awesome, who are all wide-eyed and trying to learn about this stuff at an early age, which the earlier the better, I think. And yet, when we walked in the house, nobody was like, oh, yeah, this will be great. Mm-hmm. Different wallpaper and just all the things. Then the second house we went to, there's a crew there, and you've been working on that for about 15 days. So 15 days in, tell us what stage a house is in.
Absolutely. So suddenly all of that rotten peeling wood, you were seeing bright, unpainted, brand new wood getting put in as needed. You had overgrown trees and bushes at the first house. We started seeing piles of tree limbs on the side as we're doing that kind of tree work. Flooring ripped up. The famous trash pile behind the house is starting to get higher and higher as we've gutted more and more of the house. And some of the finishes from our assembly line, so to speak, are starting to jump on.
Well, it's an interesting thing. When you are gutting the house, you've got all kinds of stuff that is trash, basically. And rather than rent one of those big dumpsters in the driveway, you guys just pile it in the backyard. First, you're like, well, that's kind of weird, but you have a really strategic reason you do that.
Yeah, those dumpster rentals are not cheap. They're actually pretty pricey, and it is a big advertisement that some new copper piping is coming in, new water heaters, and it's a big advertisement that the house is vacant. It's so low key to just throw it in the backyard. It is cheaper, and again, there's so much that comes out of our scale and the vertical integration, and so we have a full-time dude with a trailer and a shovel, and we're doing 100 or so rehabs at a time, and he just rolls around and hauls off our trash piles, and it's more efficient. It's actually kind of more, it looks better for the neighborhood that you don't have the big dumpster out front, and it's just one of those tiny little ways we increase efficiency.
So we then went to house 3, another nice neighborhood, and almost finished. So you've got the carpeting in, you've got the runners so that the workers can get through and we can get through without messing up the carpeting. Most of the molding's been done, the walls have been painted, and now they're just working on those finishing touches. How many days in was that property?
That one was about 30 or so, and it was really close to our final punch list stage. So every house with us is going to go through 3 rounds of inspection. The first round of inspection is the functionality. They're going to blast the heat, they're going to blast the air, open every cabinet door, or has the humidity changed since this door was installed and now it pulls on the carpet a little bit. Next person, different person, is the details person. Sometimes the number 8 in the house number is upside down. The guy that's good at figuring out, that's doing the pressure testing on the pipes, is maybe not the guy that has the detail for eye about this paint line isn't as crisp as we want it to see, or these bushes aren't spaced as symmetrically as we want them to see. So person number 1 comes in and puts blue tape on every little thing that needs some work. Person number 2, our sort of cosmetic detail person that's really good at that stuff, comes through. That used to be where we stopped. And then sometimes renters would say, there was a lot of blue tape on my house when we moved in. So now the third and final audit is after the crews have gone back in, they've touched up the cosmetics, they've touched up the functionality, and we go back and audit and make sure that every single one of those punch lists was done. And so that third house was in that kind of final stage where stuff is starting to finish up. We're starting to punch list. You're really starting to see the beauty of the house come out, but not quite move-in ready.
Yeah. And then the final house is one that has just been completed and the tenant has been selected and they're ready to move in. And before they were able to start moving boxes, we got to be in there and see just that Mid-South touch. So the cabinets, beautiful. Everything's finished. It looks like pretty much every other one of your finished houses, which is one of your keys, that you use the same stuff, so it makes it really easy from management and maintenance.
Absolutely. So it's the same digital thermostat in every house. It's the same water heater in every house, same countertops, same flooring. It makes us so efficient on get-readies. It makes us so efficient on maintenance over the time. It helps our renters, really, as we were talking about. We'll have 100 approved renters at any given time that just have figured out that our houses are a little bit nicer and a little bit cheaper. And one of the reasons we were talking about that we often rent the houses before we're done with the renovation is that our leasing agents, aside from not charging application fees, can say, hey, this house that you like the neighborhood and you like the price and you like the exterior, this is what your new kitchen is going to look like. Even though right now it's in the middle of a gut job, this is what your bedrooms are going to look like. And it makes the wheels turn a little bit more efficiently.
Hey, before we're done, we'll let folks know how they can come and do this exact same thing we did. Once a month, you guys are offering for folks to come and take a look. And I would say it's a great way to, we say kick the dirt, but it's one thing to see, and you've got a great website and people can look at lots of pictures and they get a feel for it and they can go on, their map program. But it's different when you can see those neighborhoods and what the neighbors are like and how they're keeping their houses. We had a couple of fun things happen. We'd be able to spot a Mid-South home.
Yep.
Because you don't paint every house the same way, but you have like 4 color schemes and it was kind of fun. Oh, there's one. Yep. Oh, there's one. And then we also were looking for distress. Are there a lot of for sale or for lease signs? Is there overgrown, boxed up or bandaged up houses? And there was just very little of that. And I thought that was pretty eye-opening. But also you start to get a flavor of what these blue-collar, hardworking tenants, where they live. And it's probably nicer than most people have in their mind. When people hear your pricing, houses are, $95,000 to $160,000. They have something in their mind. But I'll tell you, they're nicer than you think.
Absolutely. Most of our investors are from much higher cost of living places than Memphis. And I love showing off how cute and quiet our sweet working class neighborhoods are. These folks have well-paying labor jobs. We're not seeing foot traffic. We're not seeing a bunch of folks on their porch because that neighborhood is at work. There's houses that the construction style looks identical and somebody could come in and do a similar rehab. But what you're not seeing many states over over is that environment around. And that's what we love when people come and visit. I can send you pictures of the inside all day long, and I'll have anybody shoot a video of the street for an investor if they want, but there's something about seeing it and seeing it over and over and over again. We drive 10 minutes, this neighborhood feels the same. 10 minutes again, this neighborhood feels the same. And 95% of our investors have never set foot in Memphis. For those that want to do it from their living rooms, you're in the norm and we're really well set up for you. But we love it when folks come. We love showing off what we're doing. It's such a neat and educational experience. The group tours are the most fun. Investor A asks a question that investor B would not have thought of,
right,
and vice versa. It really elevates the whole thing. People are all best friends at the end of it. Very frequently, man, almost every tour, I have an existing investor that has 3 to 4 houses with us and has for a couple of years come to town for the first time. And then they're like the mother hen for the first time investors that are considering it. And they're saying, really, you bought 4 from them before you ever came to town? And they're like, yeah, the first one worked and we kept rolling. And so once a month, they're always a Friday, so people can stay over the weekend if they want. We get rolling about 9:30 in the morning. We're usually wrapped up by lunchtime. We're going to treat everybody to some great barbecue. And this exact progression of houses that we got to tour today, it'll be different addresses, but we'll be seeing, you'll get to see the transformation, see these different neighborhoods, meet Terry, meet me. Our property managers come in and do Q&As, and it's a lot of fun. Oh, and aside from, for most people, it's typically a tax write-off. We're going to give folks $500 towards their closing cost on their first house as a thank you for having come out. So it's well worth your time.
Right on. Well, hey, let's talk about the financing, because that's a question people have. At your price point, I know you got folks that come in and buy for cash. And sometimes you want to put cash to work, and this you could do worse. But many people are wondering about financing. That's no secret. Interest rates are up. Talk about how most of the investors that choose financing, what that looks like in your market right now.
So I make it my business to know the best lenders out there. It's something I work really hard on. There are 7 to 8 lenders on my approved list. There's some folks that are maybe big in this space, but they're not the cheapest, but they'll get the deal done. But we actually, so at our volume, doing about 500 houses a year, I have easily 30 plus finance closings a month. And one thing people don't realize is that one bank can be the cheapest for a while, and they say, man, our phone is really ringing off the hook. Let's start creeping our fees up. And at the same time, another bank will say, the phone is not ringing enough. Let's kind of push our fees down. So every month I actually get a report where we've averages, okay, this outfit's putting out this interest rate, these closing costs and stuff. And I love my lenders, but there's no loyalty. My loyalty is to my investors. I will pivot on a dime to make sure I'm matching my investor with the lender that is going to deliver a smooth closing, good customer service, and make sure that house cash flows the most possible for them. Just like I'm going to set you up with a great title company, get you a quote for homeowners insurance. Folks could use whoever they want, but we'll get you that quote as a courtesy. I'm going to make it my business to connect you with the best lender possible. And then, we're doing, on our new construction stuff, we're doing forward commitments, which is a way of bulk rate buy down. New construction always carries a bit of a premium compared to renovated properties from a price standpoint, but there's these great programs where we can make your interest rate lower and you get the benefits of the build to rent. And then we have in-house financing, which is a fantastic tool if by international investors use it all day long. There's a tab on our website called financing where there's some more details about this, but it's a non-recourse loan. That means my SDIRA investors are using it. Non-recourse loans are particularly very expensive, typically have very high loan minimums. To be able to come into a house for 40% down with a non-recourse loan at a $150,000 home value is very unusual. It's low closing costs and no early payoff penalties. And so tons of different tools that folks can use to invest.
Well, you've had people buy houses from more than 15 other countries, which is pretty awesome. And if I'm coming from another country, I don't have the American Profile credit score. And so this was a program that you've developed. We've talked about it for a while, but there's so many other uses for it. People that want to buy in their IRA or people that have Fannie and Freddie'd out use this program. And so it's definitely worth considering. And, you've figured out ways when the market is what the market is. Interest rates are higher. Okay, well, it's all about the numbers. And it's really easy to, especially on your website, because you make it so simple for people to calculate what the return might be. So if you are interested in more and you'd like to maybe come on a tour or just nose around and see what kinds of properties you could find in either Little Rock, Arkansas or Memphis, Tennessee, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com, midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That'll get you a great report that Terry wrote that you're going to dig, as well as how you can sign up for one of these tours. There's no cost to attend the tour. You just have to tell them you're coming. You're going to pay for your airfare and hotel, but you're going to get that credit towards your closing cost if you buy something. So back in the day, we would do bus tours here in Memphis and had a great time, which is how we got enamored of the market. But now you can have kind of your small tour, see a bunch of properties, and figure out what these guys do. So Liz, it's been great getting to know the market again and getting to spend time with you.
Thank you, Robert. It was a blast.
We're in Memphis, Tennessee today. More when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Hey, this is Phil Collin from Def Leppard and Delta Deep. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you ever wanted to do bigger deals using other people's money, or you want to invest alongside big, awesome real estate and other types of deals, then come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. Happens in March in Dallas, Texas. You can get all the details if you'll send an email to syndication@realestateguysradio.com. syndication@realestateguysradio.com. Well, my goodness, what an amazing trip to Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, you were just mentioning syndication, which is really the next evolution for a real estate investor. They go from doing deals and properties and managing properties, flipping properties, and really it's about the property. And then when you become a business person, you got a couple of different directions you can go. We've been big fans of syndication because a lot of times the gating item for people to go to the next level is they just don't have enough capital. They need to hire help. That needs to come from scale and a budget, and that goes right back to needing more capital. That's one way to handle it. Of course, Terry's evolution was a little bit different. He didn't go down the syndication path. He went down the turnkey provider path, and he made more money by flipping more houses. But he made that transition from being a real estate investor to being a businessman. And when you listen to Terry talk, it's all about business and processes and team and operations and paying attention to details and managing the numbers and looking for economies of scale in his operations. We've watched this guy scale his business like crazy. And yet even today, no stone left unturned, constantly paying attention to every little detail, every little nuance. The devil's in the details. And when you meet Terry, he's a former skateboarder. He's just the coolest dude, likes to hang around. You wouldn't pick him out of a crowd and go, that's a businessman. But you know what? He's one of the sharpest businessmen I know. And every time I hear him talk, I learn.
And he's done such a good job cultivating the team, which is why I wanted to ask about culture. You feel it when you're in the place. Even when you go out to the properties, they have 100 active construction zones at any one time. And that's a lot of folks to manage. A lot of their folks are in-house. They work directly for them. But like any big construction outfit, they've got to have contractors and subcontractors. And the way they organize all that is just outstanding. At the beginning of the show, you were talking about one of the perceptions people have of Memphis has to do with crime. I first think of Elvis and then Beale Street and then FedEx, and then, well, I'm not sure I'd want to move my family there. But I'll tell you, these neighborhoods were so awesome. And back when we were doing the field trips, they taught us about the Blue Crush, which was an initiative by the police department there that ended up with higher reported crime, but it was because they were kind of forcing the issue and they had great response times. Well, now they've got this really amazing thing. As I was flying in, it was night, and I looked out and I saw all these blue lights. I thought, oh, it's a police action. And then I started looking, no, the blue lights are more spread out than that, and they're kind of everywhere. I'm like, what's going on? Well, turns out all over the city of Memphis are these blue light 360-degree cameras, and they feed directly to the police department. And the message in Memphis is, if you can see the blue light, the blue guys can see you. And it has done an amazing job of not only just curtailing crime, because there's always the stupid, petty stuff that happens, but increasing the response times. And as a landlord who's thinking about owning something far away, I really like that.
Yeah, I think obviously having a great team that has great relationships with your tenants and really knows the nuances of the neighborhood is important, but there's so many things outside of your control. And when you invest in a market, you're investing in the municipality, you're investing in the government. Obviously, the state of Tennessee, no income tax, that's pretty nice. You've got a pretty landlord-friendly state, that's pretty nice. When you get into the city of Memphis, you've got this confront the brutal facts on the crime. A lot of politicians like to hide the facts. They like to massage the numbers, like to pretend that reality isn't there. We see a lot of that going on economically in the country right now. You don't really know if the stats that you're getting are real or not real because they're trying to move the gauges without changing the behavior. That's what impressed me so much the first time I heard about the Blue Crush program, because I realized they were willing to let their reported crime numbers go up so that they could identify where they could effectively deploy resources to bring their real crime rate down. And when you are out in Memphis and we're out on those field trips and you're in those neighborhoods, yeah, there's rough areas like there are in any part of town, but it isn't what you would imagine when you look at the news. You think, oh my God, I'm going into the war zone. It's going to be, shooting and drive-by shootings and all kinds. So it's really not like that. And so obviously Terry and Liz live there and they have built a great business there. And I think there are just a lot of great working class people that are taking advantage of the trend towards shipping and online commerce that are just driving a lot of packages. And we all know most of those packages end up coming through either Memphis or Atlanta, depending on if you're going UPS or FedEx. And FedEx has just been a booming anchor to that economy for the longest time.
Well, it's why you got to go see the market. It's one thing to read about it, and I know most of their clients don't actually go there, but I tell you what, I don't think there's a better way to quickly understand what a market's all about than spend some time there. If you'd like to go hang out with Terry and Liz, you can do that about once a month. They're doing the trips to Memphis, and all you do is you fly in on a Thursday night, get to their office on Friday, meet the team, take a tour of their amazing warehouse, and then you go out and look at 4 houses just like we did. None of those houses are available for sale. They're just kind of the samples. And then you can sit down with them and talk financing and timeline and price range and Little Rock and all of that. If you'd like more details, all you have to do is send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. Midsouth, just one word, midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. You'll get a great report that Terry's written, plus you'll get details on the upcoming trips in case you want to go hang out in Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, next week, we're going to be in a different real estate market, which has totally different drivers and products and types of properties and types of tenants. It's going to be awesome. Until then, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.